Snow needled the dark as Lena locked the 24/7 store and stepped into air so cold it rang. A rasping cry sliced the silence from the drainage ditch by the tracks. "Hello," she called, breath feathering. There, black-tipped ears, a banded bobtail, a thorn in a trembling foreleg. "Easy, little one," she whispered, wrapping the Bobcat Kitten in her plum scarf. It didn't struggle. It lifted its head and pressed its forehead to her wrist, deliberate. "Are you hurt or—" The wind held still. The kitten nudged again. "Out here." It wasn't asking to be saved, it was pointing the way. She shouldered the door with a hip and slid the deadbolt, trading the cut-glass cold for the small, pine-scented hush of her one-room rental. The space heater ticked awake, leaking an amber glow across scuffed floorboards. Snow hissed against the window like a soft refusal. On the table, a chipped mug steamed. On the chair, her camera bag sagged like a full lung. Lena set the bundled kitten on a folded towel and stripped off her gloves. "You're safe," she said, half to the room. The kitten, all tufted ears and tired bone, watched her with steady concentration. No pleading, no panicked wriggle, only breath that came quick, then steadied, as if matching hers. In the kitchenette she warmed goat's milk in a dented saucepan, testing the edge with a finger. "Take what you need, okay?" She knelt, held the dish. The kitten approached with desert caution, sniffed, and began to lap, slow, precise, a neat arithmetic of tongue and paws, no splashing, no ravenous rush. It drank as if rationing a long night. Lena smiled despite the ache laddering her spine. "You're a tidy little comet," she murmured. When she shifted to stand, the kitten stepped close and tipped its forehead to her wrist. Soft, insistent. A sign, not a plea. Heat travelled up her sleeve, where the scarf still held its warmth. She checked the thorn under the lamplight, coaxing the paw with 2 fingers. "This will sting," she warned. The kitten didn't pull away. One quick pinch with tweezers, a dab of saline, a whisper of antiseptic. The paw flexed once, then planted steady to the boards. It looked past her, not at the dish, not at the towel, but at the black pane of the window where the tree line was an inked breath. Lena fashioned a bed from a grocery box and a spare flannel. The kitten inspected the hollow, then turned from it as if the shape were wrong. It walked to the door, paused and listened, the way bodies listen with their ribs. Wind shuttled through the pines outside, a thread she could almost see. The kitten's whiskers vibrated, its tail ticked once. "You don't like the box, got it?" She set the flannel by the baseboard heater. The orange light caught the fine frost dried along its fur. The kitten stood over the patch of warmth, then relocated to the threshold and sat facing the dark. Another nudge to her wrist when she came near, another push of intention. "Do you want me to open it?" she asked, hand on the knob, voice low. The kitten settled, gaze pinned to the timberline beyond their thin wall. Her phone lay face down on the counter. She thought of calling the rehab center now, thought of protocols and forms and voices that might fill the room with instructions. Instead, she texted herself a reminder, morning call at 8, and returned the phone to silence. "We'll do this right," she promised. The promise felt like a porch light in a power failure. She dimmed the lamp and stood beside the door. "Tell me what I'm not hearing," she said. The kitten paced once, then pressed its forehead to her wrist again, firmer like a compass refusing north by any other name. Outside, a freight horn threaded the dark. Inside, the heater stitched orange light along the floor. Lena breathed in pine and wool. "Not now," she bargained. The kitten lifted its face toward timberline. It didn't want to stay, only to be followed. Wind rose near midnight, a blunt fist against the little timber house. The lights browned, fluttered, died. The heater clicked once and surrendered. Then the yard woke, a scatter of nails on wood, claws skittering, a low, hungry chorus that made the glass tremble. Lena froze at the sink, the phone a dead rectangle in her palm. Out by the trash barrel, shapes moved, feral dogs, ribs ridged under wet fur, muzzles steaming. They nosed the drifts, pacing a circle that tightened toward the back steps. The kitten lifted from its vigil and stood, shoulders narrow and certain. It didn't hiss. It looked to Lena, then the door, then her again. "Not safe," she whispered, stepping between the cat and the glass. A tail slapped the boards. Something thumped the bin over. The emergency flashlight lived in the drawer with elastic bands and spare batteries. It sputtered to life in a cone the colour of paper tea. The beam caught flecks of ice and a set of eyeshine, yellow-green and unblinking. The dog's breath made clouds. Their hunger made a decision. The kitten cut across the room like a thrown thought. It vaulted the chair leg, reached the coat rack, and reared up to claw at the trail map, tacked beside the door. Tap, tap, tap. One spot near the creek, cut marked in pencil from a fall hike. It stared at the dot as if sound came from there, not the yard. Then it looked back at her and pressed its forehead to her wrist, harder than before, a push a guide might give to wake the unready. "You want out?" Lena said. The word was all frost. She pictured the dogs, the blind yard, the rail line, the knife of cold. "That way! Now!" Tap, tap, tap. Decision offended fear. She shrugged into the parka, jammed a knit cap down, crammed pocket warmers, multi-tool, bandage roll, and the little plum scarf into the inner lining. "Stay behind me," she told the kitten, which was ridiculous and exactly right. She cracked the door. The dogs flinched from the spill of light, regrouped, then backed off when she clanged the flashlight against the railing. "Go," she said, voice made of tin. They slipped along the siding, then the fence shadow. Snow came needle-fine, finding every seam. Tracks stitched the yard, dog, deer, her own. The kitten chose a seam between them, quick and accurate, tail a metronome. "Slow down," Lena hissed, breath burning her throat. The kitten waited at each angle, watching her boots, then the dark ahead, then her again. They reached the trailhead gate, a buried wishbone of wood. Beyond it, the world narrowed to a corridor of trunks and blown sugar. Her light strayed over bark and foxhop prints, over fallen needles glazed in ice. "We should turn back," she said to the night. No answer back. The creek cut lay east. The kitten took east. Down in the trees, wind fell away. The quiet turned granular, full of tiny movements. Snow linting to earth, a branch settling, her parka's whisper. And then, something else. A bright, wrong sound, thin and definite, lifted through the timber like a coin dropped on tile. Lena stopped. "Hear that?" Metal on metal, a sound no river makes. Trees parted to reveal the creek cut, a pale scar under the pines. Wind scoured the ice to glass, snow hissed across it in thin, fleeing threads. Beneath the bank, something thrashed, then went terribly still. She swept the beam down. Rebar gleamed, hammered into frozen earth. A steel cable cinched a spotted foreleg tight to the stake. The loop had eaten a raw groove through fur. The adult bobcat panted in a shallow rhythm, frost feathering her whiskers. Yet when the kitten churred, she still leaned to groom the air between them. "Oh, Mama!" Lena breathed. "Easy, easy!" She crouched a cautious meter away, light held low. "I'm here to help you both." The kitten slid to the edge of the ice, ears flattened, body a taut bow. It didn't hiss, it simply angled its face to hers and let out a small, carrying trill. Lena scanned the snare. Commercial loop, aircraft cable, cam lock, anchored to rebar with baling wire. The paw was swollen above the cut. The cut was clean and cruel. She couldn't remove it without sedation, but she could take pressure off. "Okay," she said softly, "let me give you a little room." From her pocket she drew the multi-tool, a roll of gauze, and a pencil-thin camping saw. She wedged a stick under the cable to lift the line off Skin, then braced the stick with a boot heel. "I'm not touching you," she told the mother, voice even. "Just the wire." The cat's eyes fixed on her, golden, lucid, furious with pain and still measuring. She sawed through a tangle of brush that had cinched the cable tighter with every struggling step. Each cut made space. Each space gave the loop one breath of slack. The mother shifted, groaned low. The kitten answered with a thread of sound that trembled but did not break. "That's it," Lena whispered. "Talk to her." Her breath fogged the beam. Her hands kept moving. When she had the cable lifted an inch away from Skin, she wrapped the stick in gauze to keep it from slipping and lashed it to the rebar with the bandage roll. Pressure eased. Blood welled slower, dark against snow. Lena backed away, palms open. "We're buying time until help gets here." She thumbed her phone awake. One flicker of battery left, a single bar. "Wildlife dispatch," she said when the call caught. "I've got an adult bobcat alive in a snare off the Donner Creek Spur, east of the service road. Foreleg compromised, juvenile present." Static salted the operator's voice. "Can you maintain distance and reduce tension without removal?" "Affirmative. I've braced the line with a wrapped stick." "We're stable for now." "Units en route, 10 to 15. Stay on the line if you can." Her phone ticked to red. She killed the screen to save what she could. Snow smoked along the ice. The kitten paced the brink, then crept closer to the mother's face and touched nose to air, a ghost of a grooming that made Lena's throat tighten. "You found me to find her," Lena said, realization settling like weight. The kitten glanced at her and, as if answering, pressed its forehead to her wrist, a brief, declarative claim. "Now you know." Footsteps in the trees, a figure materialized out of blown snow. Hank Dillard, orange beanie, coat smudged with chain grease, hands held out like peace. "Heard dogs, saw your light," he said. "Need a hand?" Lena shifted to keep him between her and cable. "We're good. Wardens are on their way." Rescue lights flared, and Hank's eyes slipped from the glare. Sodium lights washed the cinderblock bay in winter white. The rescue truck's doors slid back, breathing out heat and disinfectant. "We've got you," a tech murmured as they rolled the kennel inside. The mother's breath rasped steady, eyes filmed with pain but lucid. Dr. Alma Reyes stepped from behind a stainless table, dark hair in a knot, sleeves pushed past the elbow. "Minimal voices," she said, soft but absolute. To Lena, "Stand by the line, no reaching in." A tech steadied the kennel. Reyes drew up a sedative, tapped the syringe, and knelt. "Easy, senora," she breathed. The needle kissed muscle, the cat blinked, exhaled, and floated toward stillness. "Timer," Reyes said, 8 minutes. She slipped on headlamp and latex. "Photographs first." A scale card clicked beside each image, the rebar scrape, the cable's cam-lock shadow, the loop's bite in tissue. "We document the story the body tells." She glanced at Lena. "Stories can testify." Lena swallowed. "Can she keep the leg?" "If infection stays out, yes," Reyes answered, already trimming crushed fur, irrigating the wound with warm saline. If tendons are intact, the solution ran pink, then clear. She measured loop width with calipers and handed the reading to a ranger, who wrote without looking up. The kitten rode in a secondary crate, eyes huge above the plum scarf. When a tech slid the door open, it didn't bolt. It stepped to the threshold and looked past the room, past the hands. "Underweight," the tech said. "Body score 3. Reyes palpated gently, then paused. "See this?" She indicated a faint pallid ring in the fur under the jaw, a ghost line around the neck. Old constriction snare or a temporary loop? Lena's hands clenched. Someone had it before. Or something, Reyes said. Either way, we treat the body and protect the mind. She lifted a scanner. The wand passed over the mother's shoulder. A soft chirp answered. "Pit tag positive," Reyes said, reading the number. "She came through 2 winters ago." A telemetry unit on the counter blinked a thin green pulse. "Radio logs put her near your address 3 nights this week. Trap cluster likely." Lena's breath stumbled. So it wasn't lost. It was looking for help. Reyes didn't smile. It was solving a problem. She wrapped the cleaned limb, layered gauze and vet wrap, then settled the cat into a padded den crate with oxygen flowing. "Now we solve ours." She turned to Lena, voice low. "Protocols from here forward. No cuddling, no hand feeding, no talking to it like a pet. No names. We want 0 reason for that brain to bind to humans." "I understand," Lena whispered. Reyes's gaze softened, then held. She set the scanner down. The room seemed to exhale with the humming vents and monitors. Imprinting is a thief dressed as kindness, 72 hours with people and the wild forgets how to find itself. Daylight didn't soften the pressure. It only made it visible. At the general store, Noah slid a to-go coffee beside Lena's register and lowered his voice. "We should tell this story," he said. "Kitten, snare. A student who listened to the wild. I can blur backgrounds. Hide the trail." Lena kept scanning canned soup and batteries. The scanners chirped like tiny alarms. "No location, no faces, no timeline," she said. 72 hours means we keep people out of it. Dr. Reyes was clear. "This isn't people in," he countered. "It's education out. Algorithms love animals. We can redirect that love into rehab donations. Help return a bobcat family to the forest. Let me film B-roll. No kitten on camera." "Your camera can't be a net," Lena said. "Even with holes, something gets caught." By noon, the rumor ran faster than freight. At the propane refill, Hank pitched his voice for sympathy. "Poor thing's keeping a wild cat in her house," he told a pair of skiers. "It'll go for chickens next." At the mailbox, Mrs. Kepler whispered to a neighbor. On the town app, a thread bloomed. Wild animal being harbored. An account with no photo typed, wardens should check. The words felt like boots outside her door. Her phone throbbed with DMs. "Is it true? Can I meet the kitten? Release it if you care." She typed twice, erased twice. A snow photo from last week sprouted burr-like comments. "Where is this? Looks like Donna Creek." She pulled it down, then 3 more, then the whole album with geotags she hadn't meant to leave on. Noah returned near dusk, notepad in hand. "I found something," he said, careful. "Your old post, the sedated cat photo. It's screen-capped all over a forum that hates trappers and influencers equally." Lena flushed, as if the store's fluorescent light had turned to heat. "It was years ago." "Tell it now," he urged. "Say you were naive, that your ex staged it, that you regret it. Give them a redemption arc and they'll listen when you say snares are poison." She looked past him to the freezer doors, where her reflection doubled and blurred. "I knew what he was doing," she said. "I told myself I didn't, but I knew. I wanted the picture more than the truth. This piece could make a difference, Noah said. "Let me roll." Lena stepped back from the register light so her face went dim. "No press," she said. "Dr. Reyes said silence protects the cats. If the kitten bonds to people because we made content, that's on us." "The story dies without a face," he said. "Then let it die with mine." She went home and opened everything she'd ever posted, captions, reels, grids. She stripped locations, wiped metadata, archived galleries until the page felt hollow. Progress bars crawled across the screen, a visible penance. She hovered over the last folder, Winter Textures, and dragged it to the archive. Then she stopped. On her phone was one photo she had taken that morning, mud thawing along the back steps, a small, triangular paw pressed into the dark, delicate and decisive. She saved it to a private album named Keep as reminder. She deleted everything except a single print in the mud. Snow came sideways, turning the window into a white drum. Lena laid the plum scarf by the heater and set down a saucer. She turned to rinse the cup, 2 seconds, maybe 3, and heard a soft click. "Wait," she said, spinning. The casement stood ajar, a slit of knife-cold air. A small body slipped through it like intention given fur, vanished into the dark. Lena grabbed her parka, phone and headlamp, heart thudding off tempo. Outside, the yard was an erased chalkboard. "Little one!" Wind stole the name. A line of prints arrowed toward tree line. Her phone vibrated. A notification laddered across the lock screen from Dr. Reyes's telemetry app. Unit 4C, stationary. Coordinates pulsed near the edge of Hank Dillard's acreage. Lena called. "It's out. The kitten's gone." Reyes answered at once. "Stay put or meet me at the service gate. We triangulate from there." "I'm coming," Lena said. "I think it's leading us." They met at a ploughed turnout, breath lifting like smoke under their headlamps' red filters. Reyes checked the receiver. A weak metronome ticked through static. "Signal froze 30 minutes ago," she said. "Either the collar snagged or the cat did." "Tell me where," Lena said. Reyes pointed into timber. "There, we go quiet. No names." They moved between trunks, boot soles squeaking on cold. The forest soaked up their light. Branches shook down glitter. At a blowdown, Lena found the kitten's tracks threading through a window of fallen limbs. It paused twice, as if it had looked back to be sure someone followed. The receiver sped, then settled. A fence line appeared, weathered posts, a strand of rusted barbed wire swallowed by snow. Reyes lifted a palm. "Stop." She crouched, sniffed, then touched a gloved finger to the air, as if listening with skin. Chain oil, faint and metallic, cut through pine. "Fresh." She swung the beam low. "Boot prints." Lena knelt beside them. Square heel, a heavy lug, a notch like a chipped tooth in the right foot's tread. The direction led toward a stand of young firs, where the wind ran thinner and the world seemed to hold its breath. Metal winked in the drift, a loop of cable just proud of the surface, a vertical stake with a smear of grease the color of pitch. A drag mark darkened the snow beside it. Tiny dots beaded along the line like punctuation. "Don't touch," Reyes whispered. "Mark it, photograph. We log position, then cut with wardens present." A shape skittered at the edge of light. The kitten, low and taut, waiting. Lena lifted her hand. It didn't come. It simply looked past them, toward a shallow drawer where the receiver clicked faster. "Ready?" Reyes asked. "Ready," Lena said, breath high in her chest. They followed the drawer until the trees thinned, and the wind carried a sour ribbon of iron. Blood whispered into the snow, and the prints weren't theirs. Morning glazed Hank's lane in thin ice. Steam rose from troughs and exhausts. Lena and Dr. Reyes parked at the turnout. The receiver clicked like a nervous metronome. Farther down, a man bent over a fence post. Cable glinted in his hands. Hank didn't look up until the shadow of their truck crossed his boots. "Morning," Hank said, casual as a glove tucked into a pocket. He covered the cable with his palm. "Coyotes took 2 hens last night. I'm tightening the line." Reyes's tone was even. "Tightening the law is the job today." She lifted her badge wallet. "Licensed rehabilitation and research partner. Where is your trap permit?" Hank smiled, all gums and weather. "Need one to protect property?" "You need one to trap," Reyes said, "and these are prohibited." She pointed to the cam lock peeking from his fist. The kitten's prints ribboned the snow between them. Proof that the forest had brought its own witness. Lena felt the stare of 2 neighbors collecting at the gate. Noah's hatchback chattered over ruts and stopped crooked. He hopped out with a camera rig and an apologetic smile. "Public road," he said. "I'm rolling responsibly." "Turn it off," Lena said. "This is evidence, not content." Noah swallowed. "It can be both. People donate when they see faces." Reyes didn't look away from Hank. "You can feel my hands, nothing else." She knelt and laid out tools, calipers for loop width, a ruler for bite depth, a tablet with last night's wound photos. "The pattern here," she said, tapping the screen, "matches your hardware." She lifted the receiver, its graph spiked beside a map tile. "And the pit tag logs place this female here 3 nights running within 100 meters of your fence." Hank's jaw worked. "Bobcats kill chickens. I'm protecting my livelihood." "With illegal snares," Reyes said. "They don't distinguish paw from throat." Lena's voice slid in, steady. "You heard the freight last night? We were out there cutting space so she didn't lose the leg." Hank snorted. "Heroics don't change the law you're suddenly so fond of." Noah lifted the lens a fraction. "Lena, one quote?" She closed her eyes, then faced the camera. "I posted a photo years ago with a sedated cat," she said. "I told myself it was advocacy. It wasn't. It was vanity. I knew when I looked away. Today I'm not looking away. Snares aren't protection. They're cruelty you can set and forget." Her words hung, visible as breath. At the property line, 2 more neighbors gathered, phones tilted like curious birds. Reyes dialed. "Ranger unit, please respond. Active illegal hardware, match to injuries, suspect present." Hank spread his hands. "Suspect? In my own field?" "Injured wildlife, prohibited device, research tag interference," Reyes recited. "That's 3 lines crossed before breakfast." The kitten appeared between fence pickets as if sketched by wind. It didn't mew. It watched Hank's hands, then watched Lena. It stepped close and pushed its forehead to her wrist, brief, grounded, then turned toward the den crate lined with the mother's fur and bandage gauze in the rehab truck's open bay. "You're safe," Lena whispered. "We're fixing it together now." Ranger Patel arrived with a dusting of snow on her shoulders and a pen tucked behind one ear. She listened, took statements, and walked the line, photographing each set, each anchor, each smear of grease. "Loop diameter?" she asked. Reyes read off the caliper note. "Matches the wound profile," Patel said, writing. She looked at Hank. "Permit number?" Hank's mouth flattened. "I don't need the state blessing my fence." "Or the state seizes your gear," Patel said. She knelt at a buried anchor. "Chain oil's warm, set within the hour." Hank stepped back. Phones followed like tide. "You're making a mistake. Those cats don't belong here." "They were here before the fence," Lena said. Her voice didn't rise, it settled. "And they'll be here after." Patel clicked her pen. "Mr. Dillard, you're cited for prohibited trapping, interference with tagged wildlife, An unlawful take attempt. Surrender the equipment. A deputy bagged cable and cam locks. Hank's face mottled. I'll sue, he spat. All of you. One last nudge, then the kitten turned to the wild. The rehab truck idled like a warm animal beside the cinder block bay. Paperwork waited on a clipboard. Custody transfer, medical plan, release conditions, initials here, here, and there. Lena rubbed Thor into her fingers. The pen still felt heavy. Dr. Reyes stood close enough to be steadying, not so close as to crowd. Read every line, she said. Ask what you need to ask. What happens after I sign? Lena asked. We treat. We pair them in a quiet den run. We minimize voice, and we assess the mother's leg. When both hunt in the enclosure and show avoidance of people, we release at a layered site. Water, cover, distance from houses. Can I visit? Reyes shook her head. Visits are for people. The point is for them to forget us. Lena looked toward the den crate where gauze and pine needles lined the padded floor. The kitten crouched at the door slot, eyes bright, listening for the world beyond steel. It found me for a reason, Lena said. It found you to solve a problem, Reyes answered, not unkind. You solved it. Now let the wild finish the math. A ranger approached with evidence bags rattling softly. Chain of custody signed, Dillard's gear logged, she said, and left them to their smaller ceremony. Lena uncircled the plum scarf from her neck. It carried an honest map of her. Cold, pine, a thread of soap. For the den, she said. Just sent for calm? Reyes considered, then nodded once. We'll remove it when the kitten's stable. Lena fed the scarf through the slot. The kitten drew in a breath so tiny it was almost thought, then settled, shoulders loosening, as if a fist unclenched inside its chest. From the adjacent crate, the mother shifted and exhaled, the sound a low, ragged tide. Lena lowered her gaze to the forms. She initialed the boxes that told the truth. I relinquish temporary custody. I understand contact limits. I consent to release at the center's discretion. Her signature looked narrower than usual, as if winter had thinned the ink. Reyes tapped the final line. This is the hard part that keeps soft parts safe. Lena signed. The pen clicked shut like a small door. A tech slid the den crate deeper into the truck and locked the latch. Ready, he said. Lena lifted her hand to the slot and held it, palm open. Good hunt, little one, she whispered. The kitten watched her for a beat, then turned its face toward its mother's breath. This time, the space between hand and brow stayed empty. Dawn pulled a pale ribbon across the ridgeline as the convoy idled at a turnout no map named. Frost clung to sedge and fallen fir cones. Breath rose in small, faithful clouds. Dr. Reyes checked the last forms, then met Lena's eyes with a nod more grateful than proud. No speeches. The forest preferred quiet. They carried the den crates down to a meadow rim where wind combed the snow into ribs. Ranger Patel walked ahead, testing crust, marking a perimeter with bright tape that stopped well short of cabins, roads, and chicken coops. The plum scarf, washed, faint now with winter, was tied to a boundary post, a soft flag in still air. Ready, a tech whispered. The mother's crate door opened first. She paused, ribs lifting. Then she flowed out, a low, purposeful river of muscle and breath. No backward glance, just a line drawn into alder shadows. The youngster lingered at the threshold, head high, pupils round with dawn. It caught the scarf's colour and stepped to it, muzzle working. A tiny sound, more thought than voice, trembled in its throat. "You can go," Lena said, calm and clear. "Find her, learn the old paths." Reyes didn't shush. The words were fewer than breath and carried no hook. The kitten lifted its face to the timberline, then turned once toward Lena. Brief as a blink. It pressed forehead to the post where the scarf hung, then trotted after the mother's print line, growing smaller with each fold of ground. Snow lightened as the sun found the meadow. When the woods had finished swallowing motion, the meadow kept its marks, parent and child, doubling away into trees, boot treads circling respectfully, a single place where a girl had stood still and chosen the harder kindness. Lena lowered her camera to her hip. Near her boot, the crust had softened into a skin of glass. On it lay the signature she didn't deserve, yet would keep with care, a bobcat's paw print set beside the strap of her camera on thin ice. "Run well," she whispered. Reyes capped a pen and smiled. "Good letting," she said. "Not goodbye, just restored to where it belongs." Tonight, a wild heart found its way back because people chose discipline over spectacle. Compassion matters, but compassion with boundaries saves lives. If you ever meet a bobcat, a fawn, a raptor by the roadside, remember the quiet rules that keep them wild. Call licensed rehab, keep your distance, keep your voice low. Imprinting is a thief dressed as kindness. Dr. Aigst, Reyes reminds us. 72 hours with people, and the forest's compass can spin. Wardens, rehab techs, volunteers, so many hands working in silence, stood between a snare and a meadow at dawn. Neighbors did too, the ones who report illegal traps and choose chicken wire over cruelty. We tell these stories not to tame anything, but to witness, to say, the wild is not ours to hold, only ours to protect. If this story stirred you, consider supporting local rehab centers, learning your state's wildlife hotline, and sharing guidelines that prevent habituation. If this story touched your heart, stay close here. Love always leads back to the wild. Subscribe, share responsibly, and join a community that believes wonder is strongest when it's free to run. Because sometimes the hardest, bravest act is opening a door and stepping back. Thank you for choosing patience, science, and empathy over clicks, cages, and noise out there. When does love become the courage to let go?